the one company that I have 10 jobs with, I have 10 interviews online. They're constantly doing business development to find new clients, 12-hour days. I was getting 10K a month, every single platform to hit every single client.
Just finished recording this conversation with Alan. We went into a decent amount of detail, so I'll let you enjoy. Alan, just for the benefit of everyone who might be watching or listening, wherever they might be, can you tell us a little bit about you and who you are?
Yeah, so my name is Chen. I'm from Los Angeles. I actually spent most of my time in sales, actually tech sales, and so started my career in tech sales for about 2 years. I went into a managerial role and decided to start my recruiting business 6, 7 months ago.
Mm. Could you tell us a bit more about that? Like before you, like why did you even get into recruitment?
Yeah, so I would say that I worked for a mental health startup, and I was always super interested in the healthcare side of things. And so it was like a platform that really focused on getting therapists on board. And so I thought about it, and I was like, I want to start a business where I help therapists who are looking to make the switch into recruiting.
That's interesting because when we first started speaking, you were focusing on construction,
Yeah,
or,
definitely.
or were
So
you?
yes, yes. So the funny thing is that was my original plan, is to, do a business in healthcare specifically. And I started off actually trying to use, every single platform to hit every single client. And I got construction clients, I got healthcare clients, I got tech clients. And my overall niche when I started was to go into this healthcare side of things. But then, when you start, you want to just make as much money as possible, and that's why I kind of got into that rabbit hole, which I think your program really helped get me into more of a niche type of focus.
Mm. I suppose we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Just touching on that though, because like you were considering all different avenues and whatever you could get a hold of, and then just getting going with it. You still made some money from that.
Yeah, yeah, I did, right? But it's you make good money from that. I was getting 10K a month, and so that's not bad, especially for your first year. The only thing that's the biggest issue is when you're sending emails to every single person. You don't have a CRM in place. When all your candidates are just everywhere in Google Drive and Google folders, it's not going to really do much to grow your business. It starts becoming like a self-employment versus actually growing a business that is sustainable in the long term.
Mm, absolutely. Um, just talking in that moment, because at the end of the day, you mentioned 10K, and it's a number that a lot of people aim for. You were already there, um, and you were considering a few different options and ways to take your business forward from that point onwards. Um, can you talk me through, like, in that moment, like, why were you even looking for something else? Like, you're making 10K a month for a lot of, certainly for beginners. That's a major goal, a major achievement. Why were you looking beyond that point?
Because another reason why I started this recruiting business is not just because I didn't want to have a boss. I wanted to work on my own, and I wanted to be on my own. But when you start just focusing on just making money, like, you don't focus on the actual growth of your business in terms of what processes you need to put in place. So when you hire a VA, or when you hire other recruiters, you can scale. When you think and have this mindset of, okay, I'm confident and I'm happy, I'm content with making 10K a month, then you kind of stop thinking about, what you did, why you did this in the first place, which is to grow and scale, and to make it a sustainable business where you're not working 60 to 70 hours a week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it does shift your perspective. Um, did you did you try anything else to, like, from where you were at that 10K per month mark? Like, what were the things that you were experimenting and trying with at that moment in time before we spoke?
So many things. The biggest thing that I think I shouldn't have done is just sending a bunch of cold emails to candidates. And
Oof.
you talked about this where, you know, uh, I didn't even know how to use any automation platform. I didn't really know how to use anything you taught, actually. And I didn't know anything. So I would send, like, using a main domain, sending like emails to candidates like, hey,
Oof.
you want to take this job? You want to take this job? And we all know that doesn't work well. So that was
You still made money from it though.
still, but my domain's done now. We out. And yeah, you got to buy new ones. So it's not a really sustainable way of doing this. And it took me what, like 12-hour days to just send a couple of personalized emails to candidates just so they can
Mm.
talk to me and maybe be interested in the interview with my client.
So it's all just down to potluck, basically, just whatever would come through.
It basically is just luck. Luck
Okay.
comes through, hopefully works. And
You got
at the
lucky making 10K a month then.
I mean, you can work hard and do it. I mean, but the thing is that, it's, I guess it's not really a sustainable way because, you can get a job a managerial job that pays more and sometimes actually, is an easier job than working like 11 hours a day trying to start a business just to make 100K a year. It's good money, but it really isn't a way to be sustainable in terms of your personal life and work life balance.
Mm. I say that often, especially when I speak to people who have like no understanding of recruitment or complete beginners. Um, it's just, there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot that goes into it. Obviously from our encounters and conversations. There's a lot of really, really fine nuances that come out that you don't
Right.
anticipate, and you just don't know until you actually get there. And um, those have come out in the conversations that we've been having. Um, in the moment where you were actually making good money and you were thinking about growing this business, again, before we had actually spoken, what did that feel like? Because, like I said earlier, this is like a dream for a lot of people who are not making that kind of money. How did you just feel? Like, I'm just talking human level here.
Um, I felt like it felt like it was like a time for me just to like, you just feel it like it's time to make the switch, like because it's like you feel exhausted from like those days and from weekends working and having time away from friends, family, your partner, and not being able to do the things you like, and so you start just feeling like, hey, this is the time where I need to really make this more efficient because at the back of my head, I know I wasn't doing like the most optimized process. Sending email a day. I knew there was a better way to do this, and actually, I came across a friend who referred me to your program, and um, I work I work much less now in terms of getting automations in place, but also I utilize your processes to really able to get high response rates from both clients and candidates, but also really specialize in a niche where and maybe 2 3 years down the line, I have a database of thousands and thousands of candidates where I can just work with and develop a long term relationship rather than just like a churn and burn type of business here.
Yeah, I'm glad you can see that repeat element, like the long term vision. Because when we initially spoke, it wasn't the case. Um, you said there were some things that you weren't able to do because of the hours that you were working. Are you okay to share some examples of some of the things that you wanted to do that you couldn't?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, even just going to like a brewery with your partner, like it's just like I gotta send emails right now. I gotta make personal emails, or I gotta make a call at the moment. Traveling, like a couple buddies and I want to go to a trip to Cancun. Can't do that because you give up 1 week. You give up 1 week and you don't have clients anymore. You have clients who don't trust you anymore. You have candidates who don't want to work with you anymore because you took too long to find the job or they found another offer. And so it becomes like you become tied to your business, and it almost is like if you don't put in the work, then you're not gonna be able to sustain it.
What do you think would happen now if you went on holiday?
I think knowing my personality, I was still go on a few calls, but that wasn't that is but that's not because of me having to go on those calls.
Okay, this is it's more of an emotional attachment now.
Yeah, it's
um,
emotional.
touching a little bit more on the personal element of it. Um, can you give an example of what was like your darkest day running a recruitment business? Hopefully, this
Darkest
hasn't been like while you've been working with me, but go on, we can joke about it now.
Right. I mean, it started with a client, who sounded all great, right? They're like, "Hey, like, we wanna sign a, 25% deal, and, with 5 roles." And, not only do they ghost me after like a few weeks in, I sent over probably I spent no like I spent all my time working on that client, maybe like 8 to 10 hours a day, which is working on that one client, and none of my candidates were able to get an interview. They didn't accept any of my clients or any of my candidates, and
Mm.
so it was like this is like, and I realized like the biggest issue I did was I didn't qualify my client, before I decided to sign with them. I started the day and I was like, wow, like this client wants to sign with me really quickly. I don't, we can get to work really quickly. I didn't even qualify them in terms of their timeline. And turns out like they're just looking for someone to send over a
Mm.
candidate, find the perfect needle in the haystack, and they were looking for someone urgently.
Do you think that problem could or would get exacerbated by somebody who isn't qualifying their clients properly? Like, for example, if you consider the work that we've done and you consider the speed at which clients and candidates will come through, what would happen to, like, I remember this conversation that you're referring to because we spoke about it in detail.
You good?
Um, if you imagine somebody who isn't qualifying their clients and candidates properly, and then they plug in some of the things that we've been speaking about, what do you think would happen then?
In terms of course, like asking, like making sure to ask clients about like, what they're looking for in terms of timeline. You're talking about like the recruiting side of things, or are you talking more about like the automation side of things?
I'm talking from a recruitment perspective. Like, you're
Oh,
getting a volume now of clients and candidates who maybe you're not qualifying properly. What happens then?
you spend all your time doing work and getting no results because they're either not gonna respond to you, they're either going to not take any of your candidates, or they're either going to take your candidates in an interview and speak with them and not give any of them offers. Those
Mm.
are the three things that happen when you don't qualify your clients or your candidates. And the same thing for the candidate side, right? That's just for clients. Candidate side, like you don't ask them why they're looking to make the switch. You don't get another idea of instead of salary of why they're making the switch. And you don't ask them like, what they're actually looking for. Another way where you can, fail in this business. So I think really when you hone on those two skills on both sides of the equation, that really helped change things and really helped grow my business 3x.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. There's what would you say about the balance in, like, obviously I'm going to talk a little bit about your experience of working with me as well. How would you describe the balance of what is super technical from, all the system setup stuff versus how much effort is put into recruitment, the personal relationship, the emphasis on that side? Because I think on the outside, um, certainly for anybody who's not too familiar with recruitment or not recruitment, too familiar with automation, and then hasn't played with it to the degree that we have, there's almost this impression of, you lose the personal touch, or you stop talking to people, or you stop having conversations or meaningful conversations with either clients or candidates. How's that played out for you?
The thing about your program though is, there's a lot of programs out there that talk about, automate your full business 100%. So, you can you know, live freely and live a great life and make, millions of dollars a year. And, I mean, it's not to say like those programs don't work. I mean, you can like just plug in so many automations, use AI, and you can, close some deals from that. But it's not like what you said, it's not sustainable where you don't build a long-term, relationship with your clients, and you're constantly doing business development to find new clients, which is how recruiters burn out. And so I
Mm.
think the thing about your business is that you incorporate a few things automation that, make things quicker, but you don't lose the personal touch, right? In terms of reaching out to clients and candidates. You have your own ways where you can, personalize this.
Mm.
Obviously, I don't want to mention too much on this call because that's what your program is for. But
That's all right.
that's yeah, that's what you do. And so it's about really combining those two to the perfect level where you don't lose the personal touch, but also you make things faster through automation.
Cool. Look, glad you shared that. I think that should clarify for whoever's listening when it comes to,
Definitely.
um, there just seems to be a risk associated with it, with using automation and then losing the personal touch. So thanks for sharing that. Now that you're got some of the stuff set up anyway. Um, when we go back, and I want to talk a bit more about our experience. When we go back to like when we first spoke, yeah, um, you were considering a few different options from a growth perspective for your business. Like you considering a few different avenues, programs, and even options as well. Um, if you remember, I said to you, you're making the wrong choice about everything that you're considering. Do you remember that conversation?
I think I do. That was like the first conversation we had, and we had like a bunch of conversations after that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, the first conversation that we had was uh, you were planning on, in your words, scaling what was your previous business model, which was the almost scattergun approach. And I pushed back at the time and I said, not the right way to go about it. Now that we've been talking for a few months, how do you feel about that advice that I gave you?
It, it was the best advice you can get. I mean, um, let's say this. I think recruiting is a business focused on a niche, and every time you change a niche, you're effectively starting a new business. And so you think about this. If you didn't tell me back then, I would be still doing the send an email to every single client possible and in the world type of approach. And by now I would have 15 to 20 clients, but I would have one in construction, in healthcare, in tech, in insurance, and you name it. And true story, I had one who was looking for a diver engineer, someone who
What is
has
that?
someone who dives into the ocean and fixes marine structures, and has to have like a bachelor's or a master's in engineering. I think a bachelor's is enough, but and has to have a professional engineer license, which takes a while to get, but also needs to have a diver certification. And so I remember doing that sourcing for that role.
Well,
And
what did you do to source that candidate? I wouldn't know where to look for. Go on,
I,
tell us.
I I don't know. I mean, this was the first role I ever got. Actually, trying a fun story. It was the first role I ever got, and there were I think the whole of the U.S. There were like it's talking about 350 million people in the U.S. I think there are only like 100 qualified diver engineers. And the funny thing is, they were looking for someone specifically in Los Angeles or in Santa Cruz. And I was like, wow, it's gonna be tough. It's
Cool.
gonna be really tough.
Well, where did you actually look? Like, were you on job boards or did you go on? I wouldn't imagine these people are on LinkedIn, or are they? I don't know. Where did you look?
Not a lot on LinkedIn. I sent every single diver engineer a LinkedIn request, and I hopefully got a reply. But I got probably 2 replies total. Uh, and the funny thing is, they already spoke to that company, and so
Cool.
I was like, "This is the problem with when you accept every single role, and you think like every client is a client, and you go into this rabbit hole of spending 8 to 10 hour days trying to find a candidate that doesn't exist."
How long did you work on that vacancy for?
I didn't fill it, by the way. It was my first role.
But,
But yeah, I worked on it for probably 2 to 3 months, and I gave up on it.
wow,
Yeah.
you're sure you'd I credit to you for the perseverance, but yeah, that's a long time to be working on a job. Certainly without a retainer as well, and with clearly a lot of competition from other recruiters.
Yeah, I mean, perseverance is one thing, but unsmart, not smart perseverance is another thing.
Yeah. Um, I'm glad you can reflect back on it and now critique yourself on it. Critique yourself on it. Um, touching back on your experience of working with me, um, how would you describe the process from an understanding, implementation, and a support perspective?
Your support, my biggest pro about this program is your support. There was never one time in this program where I'm like, why isn't Mo responding to me? Which you can't say for a lot of programs out there. But a lot of programs out there, they do these group coaching calls where the founder isn't even on these calls, and it doesn't really ring a good bell for me for these other programs. And the reason why is because you spend so hard trying to pitch your services, but you don't have that personalization. And so I really like how you, as the founder, get involved in these group coaching calls. Obviously, like, adding more people on board is totally fine, but just you're still involved somewhere in terms of, being in the calls. And I think there's never a time where you didn't respond to me when I had a question. And you can ask the whole group and how many questions I asked. I probably asked the record amount of questions in this group.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
Yeah, and I'm always the first to hop on a call, and you're always there to answer it. No time wasted. Get it done, and you come back next week and
There
ask.
were, yeah, I know we joked about it. There were times where I felt like, is this guy just testing me? Like, is this even a
Yeah.
real situation where he just,
It's not testing. It's just my personality, man.
yeah, no,
It's not.
you are very inquisitive. It's a good thing to have. But it was along the way, I was like, we joked about it at the
Yeah,
time, and I
yeah.
said, like, are you testing me? Like, is this a real situation that you've got? But it was really, really, there were a few times where it was so unique, and you just, you can't extract that information from a book or anything like that. It's just literally, it comes with experience. And I'm glad I was there to help you, basically.
Yeah, I mean, a recruiting business, there's no way you can make that into like a one size fits all type of thing, right? And so if you go into a program thinking like, these gurus thinking that, hey, like we're going to change your business from automations, it's not going to work because it's not like a one size fits all. You don't just implement something and it changes your path. You have to not only be a good person, not good person, but a good business person in.
You do have to be a good person as well. And
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you're a good person too, but like I'm talking about in terms of like a good business person in terms of automating everything, but also being a good recruiter, right? Like if you can't just be someone who comes out of your 9 to 5 job and expect you to implement all automations and this thing's gonna work. You also need to have someone like you teach you how to be a good recruiter, and when you combine those two things, that's what you get success. That's what I truly believe in, and that's why I
mm,
think your program really does that. You taught me we have so many calls where you're telling me, Alan, this is how you close, this is how you interview, this is what you do to negotiate. And I wouldn't think I have that level of personalization anywhere else.
thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, you, I can say it now. You were a little bit reluctant right at the beginning before you joined. What were some of the doubts that you had before you got going?
You come across a lot of these. I don't think you have YouTube ads, but there's a lot of like other folks who have YouTube ads or LinkedIn
That
ads.
might change later on down the line.
Oh
So let's
yeah,
not
yeah.
talk about that just yet.
Start seeing Mo on the ads. That'll be great if I start seeing you. I'll be like the real deal. But start seeing a lot of ads about people, saying how this is going to change your life and stuff. And uh, you know, so that was my doubt. I got into your call and I was like, hopefully you're not one of those other people who are gonna like try to pitch me something.
Oh,
And
you were tainting me with the brush.
yeah, yeah. And so
Okay,
when I
I didn't know this, but it's all right now. We can laugh about it.
yeah,
That was it. Like you were just concerned that is this someone that's just gonna sell me a dream that's not real?
yeah, honestly, that's the one of the things. And then I asked people about you. You told me like, just talk to some people about you. And I talked to one of your current students. I think he's in your top program. And I spoken with him. He was like, this guy's the real deal. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So hop on the first call. And I think the questions you were asking me weren't about really selling your program, but were really about how we're going to implement like a 6 month plan to grow, to scale your business. And I think when we talked about that and you offered the next day to speak with me again and to be like, hey, Alan, like you don't have to sign with me or not. Like, I just want to be here to support you. I think that mentality of really, caring about, you know, the success of your students makes a big difference versus a lot of other calls I've been on. And so, yeah, I know you didn't know that, but that was the first
I
things
didn't.
first. I was like, I mean, I think it's like, it's common for a lot of people, right? Like we get these ads and they get excited and they want to make sure that it's going to be legit. And it is legit. The amount of work you put into this.
I'm glad you felt like that. It's quite heartwarming to hear. I do that, and for anybody who's been on calls with me, they'll know that there's no hard push. It's just like do your own research. Like here's everything. Do your own due diligence. If this is what you want, then great. I think it's more important for me now as well, especially as more people join. I want to make sure that I still deliver that same level of service, and that plays on me a little bit. I want to make sure that everybody succeeds. And one thing that I would struggle to go to sleep at night is if somebody paid me for anything and then, but it just didn't, like something I didn't deliver for them. Like
Yeah.
for me, I just have sleepless nights over stuff like that. I can say it for my recruitment agency as well. I think we've had to give about 6 refunds, and this is since 2016. So 6 refunds in total in that entire period. So less than one a year, yeah.
Yeah.
But every time it happened, I couldn't, like I didn't cope well. Didn't cope well. But and it was, I'd say not cope well, not because there was an emotional attachment to the cash or anything. It was just for me, it was like there was a level of due diligence that obviously was skipped, because
Mm.
if it was there, then it wouldn't have happened. So then we redefine everything all over again. Like, let's talk about the entire candidate journey. Like there was something that we missed along the way. And then we would reanalyze everything all over again. So I think there's a nature of element of almost OCD level attention that goes into the actual recruitment cycle, just to make sure that everything is well. And I suppose you were exposed to some of that, which is why I was able to answer some of the questions that you had that were so fine.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, yeah, and you mentioned to me too, like another big plus of why I joined is, you mentioned to me like this is a passion project, right? Like you have a successful recruiting business. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. You can
Mm.
scale your stuff and make it more, hire more recruiters, and just keep growing it. But I think when you mentioned this is your passion project, um, I think that really changed a lot of things because it was like I can tell that you're really interested in the success of your students rather than just here to make a profit. And you had no means to do that because you already have a successful business. So why would you? And so I think that was another big plus for me.
Thank you for sharing that. I did want to make this conversation more about you, by the way. So
Oh,
um,
sure,
let's,
sure.
yeah, let's do that. Um, what about what about now that you're here? Yeah, you've you've focused in on your niche. Like if you see, I'm just looking back at where we were right at the beginning. Like you're covering the whole of the US right now. We're right down to one city,
Yes.
and um, when you consider the niche that you're focusing in on now and the way the business looks right now from a trajectory perspective, how would you define success, like going forward beyond this point?
Never it's money. And this is not me trying to uh, be some kind of like a super like this is not me trying to say that like money isn't important. But in the grand scheme of things of growing your business, it really isn't. Because for me is growth is me being able to be flexible with my time and being able to run a business that's going to uh, be here for next 10 years. So like I think me not working like 60, 70 hours a week and kind of lowering the amount of times that I have to be involved with this, but also still, being really involved with my clients, but, have tasks that I could, possibly relate to a virtual assistant or, possibly, another recruiter, and really scaling that is going to be success for me down the line. Not necessarily like, how much, income I make, because on the grand scheme of things, like I think I just really care about the reputation of my business, making sure I do everything well for my clients and my candidates. And when I have good feedback on that, that's good enough for me.
That's a good goal. Good goal. I can tell that you're really, really getting engrossed into this, into the niche, the focus, like everything. Because before we spoke, it was less so the case. Basically, you were you were covering too many different areas. Um, looking back at like what you've covered so far is like part way of the journey. Um, if you consider somebody else, let's say similar to you. Let's just say they've been running a recruitment business for whatever period of time. Maybe they're working long hours. Maybe they've got a scattergun approach to a niche, or whatever they're doing, and then they come through everything that you've been through. The calls, the support, and so on. Is there any reason why you feel like it wouldn't work?
Can you clarify that? So you mean like when it wouldn't work in terms of like, it wouldn't work in my approach or
So
just think? approach. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean the result that you've got now. So previously you were not focused on a niche. The income was a little bit lower, working significantly longer hours, no CRM in place, nothing. I mean, there's a. I'm trying
Yeah.
not to make it sound really bad now.
No, it is.
Um,
It is. But I'm laughing because it's like so funny how like I was like, this is such a bad way to go about things.
so I'm talking about the journey that you've completed now to where you're earning more, working a little bit less, and where you're at from a business perspective. Um, for somebody in a similar situation, any niche, any location, wherever they are in the world, if they were to go through the same journey that you've been through with my support, is there any reason why you feel like for that person it just wouldn't work? Like, what does that person look like who it wouldn't work for?
It wouldn't work because that person wouldn't follow step by step of the process that you implement. It only will work when you're fully 100% into this. And what I mean by this is that if you're thinking that this is going to be a side hustle and you have like a full-time job and you think this is going to be something you do 2 to 3 hours a day, it's not going to work. If you think something like this is going to be something where you maybe uh, attend all the classes, but then you come back and you say it doesn't work because you haven't implemented anything, not going to work. Um, there's so many, like, there's a lot of people who I think love this dream of things, right? Like they dream about like, hey, I'm going to start this business. Like there's endless there's countless abilities to really grow and to scale and to make money. And they go into this mindset. And the problem is like, they're not passionate. First of all, they're not passionate about recruiting.
Mm.
And the second problem is they're not willing to put in the actual work that goes into building a recruiting business. And the actual work that goes into building a recruiting business is much more than just your 9 to 5 job. Like you're gonna have problems like your IT department can't solve for you. You're gonna have problems where you're gonna have clients who do the same thing that did to me, like that ghost you and causes issues, and there's gonna be people who give up. And I think the long term situation is you got to keep doing it and just keep following the process, because when you follow it and you implement it, it will work. It's a matter of time. It will work. I think you told me at the beginning, like you said, like if you do it faster, it'll work in 4 to 5 months. If you're slower, it'll work in a year. But it will work if you follow it. And so, kind of just depending on your own time frame and the amount of commitment you have, this program will work. But it comes with like a level of commitment to yourself when joining this program.
Well, we're having this conversation about, what is it, 2 months since we finally
Right.
narrowed in on your niche?
Yeah, exactly. And it
So
was a big conversation because it was like I was doing what he told me to do. The funniest thing is that the first step of everyone says to choose a niche, I didn't do that because I was doing everything he'd done. I was literally following everything. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do what Mo says. I'm gonna utilize automations. I'm gonna do this in my clothes. I was doing everything you said, but I didn't have a niche, and that's why I was still like still wasn't working. And when he finally told me, Alan, like I'm gonna be pissed if you don't follow this. I'm like, all right, I gotta do this. And so I'm a people pleaser, so I did that, and it's going well.
yeah, I'll just say this as well because I don't I encourage everybody to come forward with questions anyway, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna let somebody, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just carry on sliding down a slope when I know it's just going in the wrong direction. And I think there were a few times where I had to pull you back up.
Yeah,
One of them was that. So I'm glad that you mentioned it before I did.
yeah, and I'm glad I didn't give up on this. There's times in like 4 to 5 months where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like it's just so stressful. The clients are hard to work with. The candidates are hard to work with. It's not gonna work. I'm making like peanuts compared to what I was doing in tech sales. And there was a time I was even looking at job boards to maybe reapply myself. But I was like, nah.
While you working with me or before that?
Before,
Okay, cool.
yeah, before, because I think I've been working with you only for what 3 to 4 months. Uh,
Mhm.
And then that was the previous 3 months. I've been doing this for, like I said, 6 to 7 months. So the previous 3 months when I wasn't working with you, yeah, that was there's a time I was just like, this is not gonna work.
Yeah, it's a hard slog the way that you were doing things before. Like, no, clearly you can make money from it, but it's like you said, it's a road to burnout. So, and
Exactly.
yeah, there's plenty of recruiters doing that at the moment. The 50+ hour weeks, just to make things work. I mean, there's nothing wrong with working long hours, we all do occasionally. It's just it's very different when there's no end in sight.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, when does this end, right? Like, you're gonna keep doing this over and over again, and without really scaling, and it's gonna be just like basically another job you give to yourself.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Where are you at now, business wise?
Uh, let's clarify that. Are you business wise in terms of where I want to go next, or
That's the next question. That's
oh,
where are you at now?
I'm at a great place. I'm signed with 3 to 4 active clients who are great. I love working with them. They're all in my niche. I have a few more client calls next week. Hopefully, get some more signed on. So probably a total of 6 clients. One client I have 10 jobs with. Another client I have 4 or 5 jobs. Rest of them, we'll see down the line. I'm at a good place right now. So I'm at a place where um, once I've really developed myself in finding these clients, I can really just focus on the candidate side of things because I don't I can kind of sort of slow down my business development and not focus too much on that because I think I've gone to the point where I have enough jobs to work on. So
Mm,
that's my point right now. I'm just at the point where I think I'm just at that inflection point where I'm gonna really scale this up. I think my
mm,
next step with you, I first talked about this was, kind of really getting into that hiring phase of hiring people, employees for your own business.
mm. That's
Right.
going to be an exciting one. That's going to be an exciting journey. What about you mentioned that you've got quite a few jobs on. Um, Jobs on in itself from a recruitment perspective isn't like the most exciting part of it. It gets more fun when you've got interviews happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, where are you at when it comes to interviews with these jobs?
The company with the one company that I have 10 jobs with, I have 10 interviews aligned. So one interview
Oh,
for
you
every.
bumped that up then since we last spoke.
Uh, Yeah, I'm trying to bump it every day. I mean, it's just getting hard to find like more and more clients or candidates sometimes because there's so many jobs open. So I think I'm probably at like I have another conversation today and next week. So I'm gonna be at 12 for that one client in terms of interviews. I have other interviews aligned with a previous client that I worked with. I closed one big deal with them. I have another interview scheduled with them, and this is for a very niche role. It's for a doctor role. Yeah, and I have another client I'm speaking with today, who actually ghosted me for a little bit. They ghosted me for a month, but the CFO came back to me and said they were busy. They had they're going through an audit, and so yeah, I think they have 3 jobs open with them, all in the same niche. So,
How did you re-engage that client?
I followed up with them. Okay, so this is how I work with clients who necessarily don't respond that quickly. You follow up with them once, and you follow up with them, twice very quickly. So maybe like if you on Monday, let's say Monday you have an initial contract, they don't respond to you, then I follow up on Tuesday. Then I start slowing it down. I follow up maybe on Friday, then I follow up in a week, and I follow up in 2 weeks, and you kind of slow it down, but you still follow up, right? And so you don't annoy them, but you also make sure to show that you're engaged and you're ready to work with them. And so they remember you. And so when they got back to me, they were like, "Hey, like we've been seeing your emails, and we apologize. Let's work. Let's get to work." And so yeah, we're gonna talk about that today and re-engage a
Yes.
client call to know what openings they need and what qualifications they need.
Good work. Good work. Keep it
Yeah.
going. Keep it going. You're gonna have more and more that come through on that basis. Like I think my view anyway is that a lot of I'd say a lot of from my experience, the recruiters that I speak to, beyond 3 or 4 follow-ups, it's like that's the end of it. And
Right.
in this particular case, it just goes to show sometimes it's significantly more than that.
Right. Right. You got to follow up all the time.
That's it. Um, you know, earlier on, you mentioned about how this, you gave some insight into how it affected you personally. Um, you spoke about, you going out with your friends and so on and taking time off was quite difficult. Um, I suppose I can say this. We're both Asian, yeah? We've
Yeah.
got, yeah, we're very, family orientated. Okay. Um, how do your family feel about you now compared to months back?
So, months back, I'm lucky. So my family, they're always been very supportive. I've been a little bit harder on myself actually growing up. When I played competitive tennis, was very competitive tennis actually. I was on my way to play for college, and I think the idea was that I got to that level because my parents always supported me, but they never pushed me. And so they had the same mentality here as well. When I quit my job, they were a little shocked, but they were also like, we're proud of you for starting this. I mean, you're so young, 25 years old, and you're gonna try this out. And so um, they never, like, I was just lucky. They never really pushed me, but then, they never really saw like result as like a way of getting their approval. So
Mm,
I think that in terms of what they think about me, I think it's been the same. But I think in terms of having more time spent with them, that's been much better. My
mm.
partner as well, she's always been very supportive. Having time with my friends, we all, like, all my college buddies, we all live very far apart now, and so when we have time to hang out, it's really like a special occasion. So that's a thing now. It's like you get to now it's just a much better, time on your flexibility and being able to hang out with the people you want to.
Glad you feel that way now, man. Glad you feel that way, and happy to hear that. Um, let's rewind back a bit more then.
Right.
So this is like before we start speaking, before you even started your own recruitment business. If you were to start everything all the way from scratch again, um, what would you do differently, knowing everything you know now?
I would get a mentor quicker. That's the first thing. I would, um, I would choose a niche. Yeah, obviously,
Yeah, yeah.
fixed rates. I'd stick to it, not be so wishy-washy. Um, I will focus on the long-term set of business rather than trying to just close deals. When you get into the mentality of closing deals, it doesn't really do much for you because you're not growing anything. You're just basically a salesperson and a recruiter. And so, and also telling myself to be patient because I think there's this thing in me where I'm a very, very fast worker. I think you and I can attest to that. Very fast. Like when you tell me something, I get it done in the next hour or two. And so I expected me to be, people were telling me, oh, it takes a month or two to grow a recruiting business. I was like, give me 2 weeks. And so really like being pushing things and rushing
I was
things
gonna
out.
say, it actually does take a couple of months,
Yeah,
at
it
least.
does. It does. But I was rushing things and really just like going steamrolling into everything. It's not right to do that. You have to really like learn how to like the basics and fundamentals first before you
Mm.
can walk here.
Do you remember we had a similar conversation on a call? Because we were talking about all the different skills that go into growing a recruitment business, and like there's the element of being actually good at recruitment, and then there's the business element of it as well. Like it's all well and good having, even if it were like somebody plugged in all the automations and everything. If you're not that good at recruitment, then it's not going to really work for you. Like it all depends on your own confidence, and you have to be at minimum have a degree of skill from a recruitment perspective. And I suppose along the way we've like blended both of them together, and now, yeah, you've seen the results that you are. The When we had this conversation, I was saying like, I remember you saying something very similar to me, if I remember it correctly. You remember you saying something on the lines of, "What sort of time frames am I looking at?" And I'm like,
Exactly.
"Dude, it's gonna take a little bit of time. Like there's a lot to learn. Considering, yes, you had some sales experience, and that helped definitely. Um, but then when I'm thinking back to some of the conversations I have with beginners as well. When you're growing right at the earlier stages, there's so many skills that are still yet to be acquired. Some that you just don't know until you actually get there. And yeah, you've been through that journey now, and you're in a much better place now.
I'm in a much better place, but also look, I'm still learning, and I think there's so much more to be learned. I think we talked to you like literally the other day, and you mentioned, um, I can tell you how to, we go on group coaching calls, and you can tell me how to solve these problems, but it's like there's always going to be a specific problem that you never heard of that you're just going to be it's going to be experience for the next call you get on. I think you told me about like one time a candidate didn't want to work for a company because of they smoked or something, or like
Yeah,
they,
yeah,
they
yeah, that's happened. That actually happened.
yeah. And so when you told me that, I was like, wow, like that could, there's always a reason where something can happen. And so I think there's always a reason to grow. And um, when a deal doesn't close or can't accept an offer, He told me one thing that's very valuable is that you learn that on the next call when you qualify the can or you qualify the client.
Mm.
Mhm.
I've got one last question on this point, and then a few questions before we bring this
Sure.
to a close. Um, how do you describe the ROI that you've?
The ROI is me being a much better recruiter and me really being able to grow this business. And I think I can see for the rest of my life, honestly. I want to work this business until I'm 50, 55. I mean, not a lot of people are, I know a lot of you folks watching this video, you guys probably want to think about retiring at 30, 35, and just like, going to the Maldives. But I think for me, I really want to just keep working. I like working. I like recruiting a lot. I like helping my clients. So I think the ROI is going to be very, very good moving forward.
Just bringing this slowly to a close now, then. Um, what would you tell someone who's maybe watching this right now and they're unsure about getting going or working with me? What would you say to them?
I would say if you don't want to waste your time and you don't want to waste most time, if you want to join this program, put 110% of your effort into it. It's not going to be a walk in the park. It's not easy. Like this program's not going to teach you how to make $100,000 a month when you start off. It's going to teach you how to grow a long, sustainable business where you eventually can make that much in the future. And so, if you're not fully committed into, even though you have a full time job, like I honestly recommend doing this full time. I'm doing this full time. I quit my job, had some savings, and I was like, took the risk. Every business is a risk. So if you're not ready to put a little bit of risk down and you're not ready to fully commit, don't do it. But if you are, it's gonna pay 3, 4, 5x in terms of the
Mm,
amount of effort you put in here. And I think I say this because, like I mentioned, you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste your mentor's time. Like this is just how it works. You come in here and you don't do the work, it's not gonna work. You do the work, it will work as long as you put 100% in it.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, is there anything that you tell anybody to avoid?
To avoid this program,
No, no. Is there anything that you would advise them to avoid?
avoid as in,
You tell me from your experience. Like, is there anything that they shouldn't do?
oh, and just in terms of like a recruiting business, or
Yeah.
just in general. Okay. Avoid. Don't don't agree to every single term just because like it's like your first client. Like don't be like, hey, like they're like if someone says yes to you, don't just say yes because like you're new and like you really want to get like you want to get like a new client. Don't do that.
I feel like
Um,
we're going back on all the calls that we've had now. You
I
just
know.
repeat.
Don't
Yeah,
do
go
that.
on.
Um, do not go on this. I'm saying this really honestly. Do not go on this for the money because I mean, especially for the short term. I mean, long term, yeah, but like, for the short term, don't go on this for the money because you won't see really big ROI monetary wise and until maybe a few months in as and for putting in a lot of work. So don't do that. And I would say um, just don't don't negate the people around you, the people who are close around you at a personal level. There's a lot of people who will support you along the way, and definitely still always spend a little bit of time, or at least try to spend some time, hanging out with them, taking care of them, and being next to them. I think that's super important to have people who support you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know what that feels like as well. Um, just to make sure that everyone gets some sort of value from this conversation as well. I'm sure they have already. Is there any like practical or tactical advice that you would give someone that they can just start implementing straight away?
Tactical advice. Okay. Um, First things first, do everything in Mo's the launch program, right? Is it the launch program? Or is that
Yeah,
how you call it? Yeah, yeah, the launch program. Do
that's the one
everything.
for beginners, completely for free, full
Yeah,
course as well. Yeah,
it's
just in case
completely
anyone's
free.
watching doesn't know about it.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of programs out there that will charge you thousands of dollars for that, by the way. So like, you just do every single thing there before asking questions. Like, don't come here and asking questions about how to like some complicated questions about automation or hiring a VA before you do that. Do everything on that list. Build your website. Uh, uh, Optimize your LinkedIn profile. Do all of that first before you even get to this level. Once you do that, technically, then you can start thinking about how to be a good recruiter. I think before you implement all the automations learn how to be a good recruiter in terms of getting those advice on, closing deals, sourcing candidates, speaking with clients, and then get into the automation side of things. Don't just start, downloading all the software and automating everything and then ask Mo, or anyone on the call, like, why isn't this working? Don't do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Good advice. Good advice. I'd agree with you on everything you said. What's next for you, Alan, for the next 6 months?
I'm gonna so it's funny because, I have my partner, she's in nursing school. So, I'm only trying to take care of her and support her, but also doing this business at the same side. So I'm gonna be super busy moving forward. But what's next for me is, um, possibly hire a VA. I'm at a level where I think, I close a couple more deals, and, I think I can get into, the mindset of having someone to support you. And so I can spend more time, doing other tasks. Um, and I think that possibly in the next year, hiring a recruiter that I can work with as well. Um, we'll see how that happens. And I probably need your advice on that, Mo, but, that's what it looks like. Recruiter might
Yeah.
take a little longer, actually, a year and a half or two.
Yeah. You'll to be honest, like you said earlier, it's less so the pace and time at which you do it, more so that you do it properly. Because you don't if you don't do it properly, then everything falls apart. Just like you mentioned, like, do the recruitment, do the action steps and everything, then plug in the automations, everything works significantly better. And it's the same thing for every single hire that you can make. I'm just sharing this now. Um, we've got employees who are having record months. I've had to pay some of the biggest wage slips that I've had seen. Like, I won't share the numbers here because it's quite personal. But
Sure.
along the journey, there's always going to be challenges. But to make sure that it's done properly, then it kind of removes all the problems along the way. And I hate to say it, but well, I can confidently say it now. Like, we work in recruitment, and we see all the reasons why people change jobs. Like, we literally know every single reason why people leave, like, because of the boss, because of the management, because of the style, because of the structure, because of the pay. And when I see recruitment businesses who have like high staff turnover, or a really small team and they can't keep them, that concerns me a little bit. And I just say, like, we don't even need to look too far to understand how to get things right. So you'll learn some lessons along the way, and then they'll be supporting you throughout the rest of the journey while we continue to work together.
Awesome. Thanks, Bo. I appreciate it.
Brilliant. Any final comments or thoughts you want to say to anybody who's watching or listening?
Let's do it. Go. Let's
Let's
do
go.
it. Let's go.
Cool. All right. Well, let's crack on. I'll leave links to everything that Alan's mentioned as well, including the free course that I put together. It's a 5-hour long YouTube video. I'll link that below. And for anybody else who's interested in having a conversation with me and having a similar experience, I'll leave the details. But for now, Alan, I look forward to seeing you on the next call, next time we speak.
Awesome. Take care.
All right. Take care.